Hugh Hacking is the executive head of structured investments and annuities at Momentum Corporate, where he focuses on building retirement solutions that balance innovation, certainty, and long-term income security. With deep experience across investment structuring and retirement outcomes, Hugh works closely with advisors and employers to help members navigate uncertainty, manage risk, and convert savings into sustainable income in retirement. Welcome, Hugh. It's great to chat to you.
Good afternoon, Rianet. Thank you very much for the time.
Yes, Momentum Corporate recently shared a release, starting off with a statement made by Elon Musk suggesting that rapid advances in AI and robotics could make traditional retirement savings irrelevant. When you hear statements like this, except for grasping for air, what was your immediate reaction as someone responsible for helping people secure income decades into the future?
Well, I'll put it in a sort of a nicely rounded terminology and say the first thing I think about is that this is hype, right? So essentially, this is talking up AI at the expense of retirement savings, because really at the end of the day, you know, AI, yes, it's an amazing tool. It's going to do amazing things, but saying it will make retirement savings irrelevant, I struggle to believe that, just off the bat of that.
Yeah, no, it is nerve-wracking to think that someone is even thinking in that direction, but let's move on. Technology clearly is changing how wealth is created. There's no debate about that. Investment opportunities and even how advice is delivered. From your perspective, what does technology realistically change in retirement planning, and what does it not change at all?
Well, I guess if you own the AI company, then that changes your retirement planning dramatically, because perhaps then retirement saving is irrelevant, right? But no, essentially the technology changes retirement planning in ways which are more ingrained in the actual investments themselves rather than the principles of retirement planning. So the principles of retirement planning are not specifically changed by advances in technology. And those are that you need to save while you work, so that one day when you do actually stop working and stop earning an income, that you actually can draw down those savings and those investments in order to support yourself. Those principles, I don't believe will change. And through the decades and, you know, over many years, we've seen the mechanism of investment and saving change, defined benefits funds, defined contribution funds, who makes, who carries the risk. We've seen that change. But the fundamentals of there's an accumulation and then there's a decumulation. Those principles don't change. But technology, of course, changes what you invest in, the mechanism is investing, how you access your investments, etc.
And how we educate and get educated about it, right?
Yes, how you educate and get educated, exactly. And how, and you know, for advisors in particular, maybe the tools that they have at their disposal. So what we will probably see is that AI tools will assist advisors in the future to maybe be able to more quickly and better provide more tailor-made advice to more people.
Momentum Corporate works with both employers and advisors who are responsible for real people with real financial needs. How do you help brokers contextualize big futuristic narratives like universal abundance when members are worried about very practical issues such as inflation, longevity, and of course, monthly income?
Well, I mean, let's start with the fundamental hypothesis. If we boil the hypothesis that Elon Musk started, which is that technology will produce this abundance. Now, I mean, as we sit here, maybe that one day does actually become true. So we don't know, you know. I mean, he might be right. Maybe there is this abundance and we all live with abundance around us, if you can believe that, right? But it'll be amazing. But the thing is, do you bank on it? And the answer is, you know, you can't bank on it. You know, it's better to save and not need your savings than to not save and need your savings. So that's the fundamental starting principle with us. But you know, you can't bank on something happening in the investment world. You cannot say that share will absolutely do that. That technology will absolutely be successful. This thing won't be successful. Those absolutes are not within the realm of normal technology. So where we try to assist advisors and individuals is for them to understand that investing for the long term is really, if one wants to put it in these terms, hedging your bets, looking at making sure that you've got more than one horse in the race, so that at the you know, whichever one actually ends up winning or being successful, that you have a stake in that. So when you're investing, you will invest in different types of technology. You will invest in different types of industries. You will and that in investment terms really simply comes down to diversification. So we preach and diversification, and you know, we believe that that is ultimately possibly the only free lunch in investing is the fact that you can, by investing in a number of different things, you can diversify away your risk. It's not perfect. And we know we've seen instances where even diversification doesn't hold over shorter periods of time, like the global financial crisis. But over the longer term, certainly, that is what we, you know, really fundamentally believe in.
One of the strongest themes in retirement planning is managing uncertainty, right? So
Yes.
how do structured investments and annuities fit into a world where the future feels increasingly unpredictable, whether due to technology, markets, or global shocks?
So there's various ways of thinking about saving towards and investing for your retirement. And different people have different preferences. And some of the things that we, for example, do is we assist people to manage the risk of their investment fluctuations whilst they're accumulating their savings and after they have retired, by producing investment solutions that assist with that. So we would produce the types of solutions like smooth bonus investments that take care of volatility and provide certain underpinning guarantees for members. And we also work with specific institutional clients to create solutions that also help them to invest their money so that they can achieve specific return profiles over the longer term.
For members who are still accumulating savings, which I assume is most of us, what role should exposure to innovation and new technologies play inside a diverse retirement portfolio? We spoke about diversification. And where do you draw the line between opportunity and speculation?
Well, I'll start with the last question because it's a difficult question. You know, people are very tempted to speculate in things. Now, speculation, in my mind, is when you go all in on something, like you think cryptocurrency is going to do something and you go all in, but you forget about linking those investments, or are they linked to real economic factors? So speculation is when you go all in on something that's not linked to underpinning economics. Like cryptocurrency, for example, is a very speculative investment, and one can argue that it's going to do well or not do well. But fundamentally, what drives the value of that? And it's sentiment. It's not specifically underpinning economics. Now, we can argue that many shares in traded markets, there's a lot of speculation that goes into the price fluctuations of those shares. But fundamentally, shares are theoretically, at any rate, underpinned by the economic realities of the companies that you're buying the shares in. And so investing is really fundamentally thinking about investing in things that should, over the longer term, create value because of the underpinning economic realities. And so when you're diversifying in your investments, it's around diversifying into things that have different exposures to different economic realities and different economic principles. So innovation is absolutely one of the areas that you should be exposed to because, you know, let's choose one thing, innovation, solar technology, you know, solar cells, etc. Now we've seen a boom in those. Will the boom continue? We don't know, but there's an economic reality there that is growth orientated, and so you do want some exposure to that. Similarly,
Yeah.
you want exposure to other areas in the market and other economic factors like maybe medical science or manufacturing or mining, farming and agriculture, etc. Things that are economically productive as opposed to things that are purely sentiment driven.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that makes sense.
It makes 100% sense, yeah. At retirement, theory gives way to reality, fortunately or unfortunately. What do you see as the biggest disconnect between how people imagine retirement will be funded in the future and the actual income needs you see when members eventually reach their retirement age?
Sadly, the biggest disconnect is that people don't imagine themselves retiring when they can make the most difference to their retirement. So when people are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, when they can actually make a real difference to what that future will look like, often not through their own fault, right? Sometimes it's because people don't know, or they've got other economic realities, pressures, and they're paying school fees, etc. But at those points in time, people are not envisaging themselves retired, and so they're not doing the things that make the real difference later. So that's the biggest disconnect.
Yeah.
The next big disconnect is that, people, when they retire, they have expectations of achieving more with what they've saved than what those savings can deliver, if that makes sense. So people maybe opt for living annuities where the drawdown rates are too high, or they invest far too aggressively. And when you invest aggressively, of course,
It
things
has
can go
consequences. Yeah.
things can go horribly wrong, right? It might go spectacularly right, but the chances of going horribly wrong is increased. And those things can have dire consequences for people. And so unfortunately, the logical path is that you are beginning to prepare steadily from your 20s through your 30s and 40s and 50s, get to retirement, you're able to make prudent choices. But the unfortunate reality is it doesn't always pan out like that. And so people often preparing too late, they get to retirement with too little, and then they're trying to, make magic work. And that is the unfortunate reality that we live with.
And I think a very, very big part of that puzzle is medical schemes or medical savings, medical challenges, healthcare challenges. That takes such a big chunk of that retirement plan that you had. And
Yes,
I think a lot of people just underestimate that expense grossly.
absolutely right. Yes, absolutely right.
Looking ahead, how does Momentum Corporate see its role evolving, not just as product provider, but as a partner to brokers and employers in helping members stay grounded, prepared, and confident, regardless of whether the future looks utopian or messy?
That's a great question. Now, we believe firmly in putting the human first. So we believe that our business is not about investments. It's not about machines and equipment and technology and fancy things. We believe it's about people. And so the people are the advisors, and the people are the individuals that ultimately that we serve to retire. So for us, the real difference is helping both advisors and individuals with tools and solutions that they can understand, that they can engage us on, and that ultimately make a real difference to their lives, and in the case of advisors, assist them to help individuals, and for individuals, the solutions that actually fit real world problems.
Our audience, obviously, those advisors, a last message to them, specifically you.
Well, I think the message to advisors, advisors don't have an easy job because, at the end of the day, as I mentioned, that big disconnect, advisors are often the glue at that point in time when individuals have to make really big and difficult decisions. And so, I think the message to advisors is that, we understand that those problems. And so we encourage them to continue to talk to us to see what sort of solutions, we can help them with to meet the needs of their clients, at retirement. And those the needs change depending on interest rate cycles, economic cycles, etc. And so we've got a full arsenal of products and tools that we can assist them with, and we encourage them to keep talking to us.
Thank you for your time. Yeah, very interesting discussion that came off that very interesting press release that you guys have sent out, which is available on the FAnews website. Very interesting read. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rianet.